One thing that really struck me about Professor Alv's analysis is this idea that Putin might be playing a long game here. He seems to be betting that Western support for Ukraine will eventually waver. Sanctions always have a cost for everyone involved. So Putin may be calculating that the longer this drags on, the more pressure Zelensky will be under, both domestically and internationally, to make concessions.
It's like a war of attrition then. The side with more patience wins.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where Trump's approach becomes even more confusing. On the one hand, he's praising Putin and downplaying the whole conflict. But on the other hand, he's demanding concessions from Ukraine. It's almost like he's trying to broker a deal on Putin's behalf.
Yeah, it's sending such mixed signals, and it feels like it plays right into Putin's hands. It's like he's saying to the world, look, even the U.S. isn't fully committed to supporting Ukraine. Maybe it's time to cut a deal with me.
Exactly. And remember, those claims Trump made about Russia's casualties, that they were much lower than reported, and their economy was actually doing great.
Yeah, those were pretty wild, almost like he was trying to downplay the impact of the sanctions and make Putin look stronger.
Well, Professor Alf suggests that those remarks, whether intentional or not, they just erode the trust between Russia and the West even further. And when you're dealing with a conflict like this, trust is essential. If there's no trust, it's almost impossible to find any kind of peaceful resolution.
It's like instead of trying to put out the fire, he's just throwing more fuel on it. No wonder Putin isn't taking any of these diplomatic efforts seriously.
And we can't forget the impact this is all having on Zelensky.
Yeah.
He's trying to rally international support, but at the same time, he has to deal with this unpredictable dynamic between Trump and Putin.
Yeah, it's a high-stakes situation, and I think it really highlights the human element of all of this. It's easy to get caught up in the geopolitics and forget that we're talking about real people who are making life or death decisions.
Absolutely. Professor Alves really emphasizes that. Especially when he talks about Trump's desire to essentially wash his hands of the whole thing and just let Europe deal with it.
Can you imagine? That would be a huge shift in the balance of power.
It would. And it would be a dream come true for Putin. He wants nothing more than to see Europe divided and struggling to handle this on their own.
It fits perfectly with his narrative that the West is weak and unreliable.